Thank you all very much for joining me this afternoon for this webinar on Lewa Wilderness. My name's Orla and I work alongside Anita and Alice at Smallwood Marketing. And I'm delighted to be giving this presentation this afternoon. Lewa Wilderness is a place that's very close to my heart. I volunteered out there for a couple of weeks working front of house and helping the team with the marketing behind the scenes. So yeah, very special place indeed. So just some housekeeping before we get started. The presentation will be around 15-20 minutes, and we will have some time at the end for questions. So if anything comes to mind throughout the presentation or at the end, please do pop it into the Q&A box and I can answer it then. This is also being recorded, so if you want to share it with your teams or catch up on it at another point, I will upload it to the Small World Marketing YouTube channel and you can find it there. So to start off, I just wanted to kind of give a bit of history and background about Lewa Wilderness. Lewa Wilderness is a family-owned property located on the Lewa Conservancy in Laikipia. So on the image here, you can see Will and Emma, the owners, and their son Jot and his wife Miranda. And the Craig family have been on the Lewa land for over 100 years. In the 1920s, Will's parents, David and Delia, they worked the land as a cattle ranch. And then in the 1970s, they converted to tourism and were one of the first lodges in Kenya to start hosting guests. And that is kind of where I suppose you had the start of this low impact conservation focused model. And the Lewa Conservancy itself as we know it today, is due to a woman called amidst. And Anna was a dear friend of the Craigs. In the 1980s, she came to the Craigs with the idea of a rhino sanctuary, as she was horrified by the rhino population decline across Africa. So that is really how the Lewa Conservancy is so well renowned as an ecotourism conservation focused destination. So for those of you who are new to Southern Kenya or don't know the destination as well, we're located on the Laikipia Plateau. And although it is central Kenya, we do refer to it as northern Kenya in terms of the safari circuit. And what I love about this area is that it's all made up of different conservancies. And here the safari experience is much more immersive. Lots of really great activities, which I'll speak about as the presentation goes on. But I personally would incorporate Laikipia into any Kenya itinerary if my clients had the budget or the time. It is so different to the Mara and it combines really well. And you get a much more holistic view of Kenya. And as I said, the safari experience itself is much more immersive. So the Lewa Conservancy itself is on the eastern edge of the plateau, and we are a 64,000 acre conservancy. And as you can see on the map here, there's only 5 lodges on the conservancy. So that means that your safari experience is very private, very exclusive. Very strict rules in terms of vehicles per sighting, maximum of 3, but in most cases you won't see any other around your sighting. And it is a big 5 conservancy. Your guests absolutely will see rhino, and just a really fantastic density of game here. In terms of access, our airstrip is Lewa Downs, and that is about a 50-minute flight from Nairobi. And then we are a 20-minute drive from that airstrip. So we'll speak about 2 different offerings at Lewa today. So Lewa Wilderness, which is the original lodge, 9 individual cottages, and then their exclusive use lodge, Private Wilderness, which opened in July 24. So as I said, family-owned lodge. Will and Emma still live at the lodge, and this is their house. And it's very likely that your guests will meet Will and Emma when they're here. And I think that is actually the beauty of Lewa Wilderness, is that you have this truly lovely home from home atmosphere. When I worked there, we often had guests who would cry when they were leaving, wanted to stay in contact. They were just really, really lovely. And I do think Lewa attracts a really nice clientele. So this is their house, and this veranda is where guests will meet for their afternoon tea and in the morning before their activities. But really beautiful communal spaces, beautiful lush gardens across the property. Dining is communal. This is our dining room. Really beautiful views out overlooking the valley. And we find that most of our guests do actually enjoy the communal setup. You meet lots of interesting people. You can talk about your day. But of course, if you have couples, honeymooners, or even families who want more private experience, we can absolutely cater towards that. Particularly for families with younger children, our garden cottages, and I suppose all of our cottages, um, are so spacious, so you can very easily have a meal in your cottage. But this is the bar and lounge, and we recently have also introduced a fire pit to the lodge. So a really nice space for guests to meet before meals. So we have two different accommodation types at the main lodge. So we have our hillside cottages and our garden cottages. All of the cottages have a different configuration. We have some with king rooms, some are twin and king, some are king and can be combined into a twin. So I will send you out a cottage floor plan of each of the rooms just so you can see. But our reservations team are fantastic at helping agents find the best cottage type for their guests. So, starting off with the hillside cottages, as the name suggests, they are kind of dotted along the hillside overlooking the valley. So, really beautiful rooms from these cottages. Personally, I would sell these for honeymooners or families with older children, purely as the veranda does have a drop from these cottages. Um, but all of the cottages have the same amenities, a veranda, a lounge space, a fireplace, which is usually lit when they return from their game drives. And then we have the garden cottages. So these are fantastic for your multi-generational families or groups of friends traveling together. These are also closest to the main area, so great if you have people with mobility issues or just want to be closer to the main area. But two enormous ensuite bedrooms and in between a lounge with a dining space also. So on the lodge or at the lodge, we have lots of lovely facilities as well. We find that our minimum night stay is 3 nights, purely because there's so many activities to do on the conservancy, and you definitely need about 3 nights to reap the benefits of that. But we do have a tennis court, a pool, and a gym on the lodge for guests also, and lots of lovely spaces around the lodge for guests to relax. So moving on to private wilderness, this was established in July 2024, and this is an exclusive use only lodge. So it's about a 10-minute drive away from the existing lodge, and it's very similar in design. It is just that bit more elevated in terms of the interiors. Like the original lodge, a lot of the furniture was made on site at our wood workshop, but a really beautiful space. So this will accommodate a maximum of 10 guests. So we have five individual cottages, beautiful dining room, private pool, um, mess space, and then these are our cottages. So whilst all the rooms at the original lodge are a little bit different, these are all exactly the same. They can be a double or twin configuration, all looking out over the valley. And all of the bathrooms have bathtubs also. And so a really nice exclusive use space. There is also an additional room if you have a group traveling with a private guide, which can also be booked. And just on private wilderness, it is a minimum of 3 nights stay at that lodge. But again, I wouldn't recommend anything less for the area. So then moving on to the activities. As I said at the beginning, Lewa Conservancy is amazing as you have so many activities on offer, and it's a much more immersive safari experience. To me, it's all about getting out of the vehicle here. So we do game drives morning, afternoon, and night, walking safaris. Our horse safaris are really popular. We do have stables at the lodge, and we do cater for all levels of experience. So if you're a beginner, you can go out around the plains, around the lodge. You get really close to zebra, giraffe, and pala as the horses are grazing with the animals during the day. And of course, if you are experienced, you can go out for a kind of a full day ride and get closer to that big game. What's really nice, what we tend to do for families is guests will go out for a ride in the morning. They'll have a surprise bush picnic set up waiting for them. And then often they might get the camels back to the lodge as well. So camel safaris are also on offer. We also have our Shamba or wilderness farmhouse. This is a really amazing experience. And I think, it's just amazing for guests to see how self-sustaining the lodge is. So here we have our organic farm, our tilapia pond. You can see where we make our goat's cheese, also our wood workshop. And it supplies a lot of the produce for the lodge. So guests can go down, have a tour. They can also have a farm to fork lunch experience. And we have recently built a new Shamba kitchen, which is covered, so it isn't dependent on the weather. So I often say to agents, you can incorporate this cost into their itinerary, and then it's a surprise when they get to the lodge. And this just is a video of the Shamba to give you an idea. The farm to fork lunch is a really amazing experience. It's an 8 course tasting menu. It is everything that the chefs and the gardeners chose that day. And it's just a really nice vibe. It's a really cool experience. And particularly during the high season when the land is very dry and arid, the Shamba remains very lush, vibrant and green. So it's a really cool experience. Awesome. So as well, being on the conservancy, we do have our conservancy headquarters, and we often do encourage guests if they have the time to go down to the conservancy headquarters and meet the rangers. It really is a fantastic experience. You see their whole setup. It's really amazing. You get to meet the team. Depending on the day, you can meet the canine unit. And there's lots of activities that you can book with the Conservancy headquarters. So they can be booked in advance or when you get to the lodge. So fly camping is also available. So it's one night under the stars. Um, it's an additional $190 on top of the room charge per person. But again, it's just that experience for guests who want something a little bit different. And then outside of the Conservancy, we are also very close to Ngari Dairy Forest. So this is a really fun experience. It's about an hour and a half drive away from the lodge. When you arrive, you meet the ranger and you essentially hike through the forest. And you can actually jump into the plunge pools, albeit not as high as this, during the dry season. It's a really fantastic experience. It's absolutely freezing, but very cool. And again, if you have teenagers who are getting bored of sitting around in a vehicle, it's something different to mix into the itinerary. At the end of that walk as well, you do also come to a tree canopy walk, and it is one of the longest in East Africa. So as the name suggests, you are walking in the tree line. Um, I found it little bit daunting, but it was very cool at the end. There were a herd of elephants, just kind of gathering below us as we were about to come out of the tree line. So very cool. And it is only an additional $55 per person. And we can, of course, organise a cultural visit to Ilingwesi to meet the Maasai also. And then just touching on Air Wilderness, which is the airline business that runs out of Lewa Wilderness. Air Wilderness do scenic flights. That is from the lodge itself. We do have an airstrip at the lodge. So that can be around Mount Kenya or Sagota Valley and Lake Turkana. And then also we work with Scenic Wilderness. So this is an excellent option. They provide a lot of flexibility in terms of creating a Kenyan itinerary, serving Northern Kenya, the Mara, and Nairobi on their shared charter. So for example, we are hosting a farm trip next month, and we will be using Scenic Wilderness Flight to fly from Nybor in the Mara Reserve to Lewa Downs. So it just gives agents that flexibility instead of having to route guests back to Nairobi, and also create the itinerary where you start off in the Mara and finish in Laikipia. And I believe that is it. I will just stop sharing my screen very briefly just to pull up our 2026 rates, um, just so you can have a look at those. But I will send these out in the follow-up towards the end of the week. We are in the process of finalising our 2027 rates also, so I will make sure you get those in when they are finalised. So that just gives you an idea of our peak season rates. And just to bear in mind that the conservancy fees are an additional $183 per night. So that is our peak season. And then our regular season, um, you can see here on the screen. But I will send these out as well with the private wilderness rates. So yes, that is it.